There's a lot of weird shit on the internet. I'm pretty sure we've all heard the Bo Burnham song, right? But here's something that nobody really likes to consider in those conversations. Why, of all creators, is the #1 non-corporate YouTuber PewDiePie? Seriously, has nobody ever sat down to think about this? Because usually what happens is you're disgruntled because all your friends are into it, so you're like, oh, I guess I have to check it out now. And then 3 days later, you know all the words to bitch lasagna. But anyway, good morning, internet. My name is Ash, and today I've decided to look at some of the reasons that people put forth when people ask the question, why is PewDiePie so popular? Because you'd think that a person would become #1 by having extremely creative and out there ideas that resonate with a wider audience in a way that nothing else really has, and I guess there's a way to argue that Felix does that, but I mean, let's not pretend that we're still considering that possibility. We know that is not the answer. In fact, at some point in 2018, PewDiePie's Reddit literally went on strike so he wouldn't make more Reddit videos. Only for him to make more Reddit videos. And yet we still watch the man. Why? And I'm not saying that to say that we shouldn't watch PewDiePie. I am legitimately curious as to the reasoning here. What in our brains makes us drawn to this guy? I made a video a while back about a Swedish public speaking expert called David J.P. Phillips, who went viral after posting an analysis of PewDiePie's public speaking skills. I mean, the guy ranked Felix higher than Trump and Biden. He also ranked Jacksepticeye and Markiplier in the same range, which, you know, definitely says something about public speaking and its connection to success on YouTube. In fact, public speaking is probably a way more important skill than we think, to be completely honest, right? But if that were true, according to that very same guy's analysis, why the fuck is Joe Biden the president? I'm not trying to get into that debate. He won fair and square. I am not going to insert myself into that. Comments don't blow up! Some people argue that Felix was just lucky, and in reality there are thousands of other channels that could have done it, and it's also beneficial that he is a Swedish man who filmed from Sweden, Italy, England, and Japan. Maybe it's because he hops between trends, although he doesn't really do that so much as he makes them anymore. Maybe it has to do with the community that surrounds his videos, but that begs the obvious question of how that community came to be in the first place. But at the end of the day, here's the thing. Original content isn't the answer, and honestly, it doesn't really matter what is. I don't think it's possible to really measure what makes anything good. Because once you start breaking it down into too many details, it just gets into this whole argument of, well, what is inherently good? Is anything inherently anything? What is the meaning of life? Yada, 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 existential crisis ensues. But I think we do know that PewDiePie is definitely not the only person to have unlocked this mythical secret. And importantly, he's also not the only person to do it without something crazy and outlandish. Think about TV shows and anime and music that you know that really doesn't add anything new to the medium, but is incredibly meaningful to you. They're using a formula, but they fucking nail it, and you cannot stop consuming that type of media. Even if, for example, in music, we've reduced songs down to 2 or 3 chords in some instances. I've been really into John Mayer for the past maybe 3-4 months now. Sob Rock review maybe coming, maybe not, I don't know. Unlike a lot of pop musicians at similar levels of fame, his live performance videos on YouTube don't have a ton of thirsty fans. It's maybe 5% thirsty fangirls, 94% guitarists complaining about how complicated what he's playing is, and 1% people making memes about the fact that the comments are 94% guitarists complaining. Now, I have no doubt that John Mayer is popular, sure, but let's take maybe Ed Sheeran as another example. He's gotta be more popular, right? Let's take 2 examples to compare these 2 artists, and bear in mind, I'm not trying to attack anybody here. Far from it, I'm just trying to illustrate a point. I'm not trying to say that Ed Sheeran is a worse musician with this. The John Mayer song that is infamous among guitarists for being so hard is called Neon, which took me about 2 or maybe 3 weeks to learn. I'm not entirely sure. It was a while ago, so my memory's a bit fuzzy. Now, let's compare that to the A-Team, which I haven't actually learned yet, but give me a second. time the clap to the start of the thing. This is literally the whole song. Now, let's compare that to Neon, shall we? I'll tell you a little secret. That was like the 4th fucking take, and I claim to have learned this damn song. I hope the contrast is clear here because non-musicians may not really be able to tell. I tried my best not to exaggerate these things because I don't want to skew the data, but that's besides the point, so moving on. You can claim that Ed Sheeran being the #1 most listened to artist on Spotify instead of someone like John Mayer is a travesty, that music is experiencing a poverty of content, as many people like to put it. You could say that literally anybody could be Ed Sheeran, whereas it takes a lot for a guy to be like John Mayer. And sure, that's true, but it doesn't matter. Nobody cares what could have happened. We use the word formulaic as a synonym for bad and boring, but I don't think that's really true. Let's turn our attention to, let's say, anime for a second. Sword Art Online, one of the most controversial anime of the past decade? No. Yes, SAO is almost a decade old and has spawned more isekai clones than Rick Sanchez. But let's all admit it for a second, we all thought that SAO had a clever premise, at least back in 2012, right? That's because all formulas were once original ideas, and the reason that they are formulas is because they work. Now, at the same time, I don't agree with the idea of if it works, don't fix it. I hate that adage, in fact. Because even if you're not talking about ideas or shows, anime, music, whatever, just think about science. The whole purpose of science is to move us forward, is to advance the human race into greater knowledges about the everything. And in order to do so, we need a reason. Humans need purpose to go forward. It's why people realizing that nothing really matters just cripples them. And in our case, the reason we tend to move forward is because we don't want to be stuck with a tiny rat's ass of a % of the universe's knowledge. Innovation is the most important thing. Period. Like, I will fucking fight you on Discord for 3 hours until I tire you out on this. Saying sticking to formulas is good without an asterisk attached to it has huge holes in it. It's pretending that we know everything while the expansion of the universe just ensures that we know less and less with each passing second. But saying that original ideas are the best way to make a new thing is also kind of problematic because, think about it. How do we define what is new? Is it simply a new take on an idea? If that's true, then literally everything that isn't an exact copy of something is new. Is it like a new melody with the same chords in music, for instance? That's basically the same as just copy and pasting and rearranging, right? Does it need to be a new, never-before-seen concept to play with? How are we defining concept in that context? Does it need to be a new genre of art? Does it need to be some kind of new medium for it to be truly new? The idea of being original is blurry at best and elusive and unattainable at worst. We only know things because we observe things, and when we observe things, we are taking note of them. So you can't know how to make something without also having observed other things, and those other things are going to influence your new thing no matter what. It's impossible to do anything without being influenced by all the things that have happened in your life, in a practical sense at least. You can't really be original. That just doesn't make sense. Here's another thing. The Great Filter. I'm just gonna use music again because that's something that I'm very familiar with. In classical music history, you have different time periods. From medieval to Renaissance to Baroque to classical to romantic to post-romantic to minimalist or impressionist, or it gets really complicated once you get past like 1950. And contemporary music, contemporary classical music at least, has a certain reputation amongst classical musicians. It's often seen as too flashy, or that the people who write it are being very snooty about their new ideas while making it so convoluted that nobody can really understand what they're meaning. Overly experimental, out there, just plain weird, the whole deal. Banging on instruments that really shouldn't be banged on, that's a terrible choice of words. Moving on. But every now and then, you get someone like, say for instance, one of my favorite composers, Alexander Misko. Every now and then, contemporary composers make something like that. We tend to forget about it, but that was happening back in the day too. For every Mozart, there were thousands and thousands of commissioned musicians who got orchestras to play mediocre music that was in a similar style, but just a little bit too out there, and subsequently, they weren't remembered. And we need those thousands of forgettable people to exist, as cruel as that sounds, because we need people to take things just a step too far. Even if it completely fucks shit up, and even if it doesn't really make anything meaningful, because we need that to move forward. Along with John Mayer, I've been listening to a lot of Owl City, whose music I won't play in this video because he is fierce about copyright. But let me read you some lyrics to a song of his called The Yacht Club. My rock candy passion is bittersweet and armed to the teeth, 'cause she would rather fall in chocolate than fall in love, especially with me. Oof. I stood under the waterfall with a kiwi pineapple parasol as Cinderella dropped the crystal ball and made a concrete cavern a caterpillar concert hall. Okay? What the fuck? This is what happens when you take drugs, kids. Just don't do it. But that's not to say that Owl City can't write good lyrics. Fireflies is the obvious example that everybody would turn to. But how about Alligator Sky, which me personally is the song that I discovered him through. Remember to breathe, 'cause it'll take your breath away. When the engines cough and you blast off, ignite the night with a firecracker flash. Remember to live, 'cause you're gonna be thrilled to death when the stars collide and your eyes grow wide. Take it in with your breath against the glass. Remember to dream, because it's gonna be a starry night over every town as you look down, so harmonize with the singing satellites. Remember to scream, because you're gonna be lost for words when the sparks erupt and they light you up. Dip your toes in the galaxy, 'cause it's yours to explore tonight. Yeah, it's weird, but if you actually listen to the song, which again, unfortunately, I can't play on YouTube because this video is gonna be taken down, you can tell he really believes in those lyrics. Owl City is known for having those kinds of weird lyrics about pepper sprays and I'm far too tired to fall asleep. Fuck, I'm gonna get copyrighted for that. And the two songs come from the same place mentally. They have a lot of the same musical ideas involved, not to mention that they're from the same album. Sometimes having an original idea is just not enough. But you can make it work if you just believe in it. One of my favorite Owl City songs is called Deer in the Headlights. It was from that same album, and I think it has the most listens on Spotify from that album, so at least a few of you have got to know it. It uses the axis progression, which is a very common chord progression in all of music that utilizes the 1, the 5, the 6, and the 4 of a chord. You don't need to know what that means. That's just for beginning musicians, I guess. And it sounds something like this. Sing the lyrics to any of your favorite pop songs over this. As long as it's in a major key, it's probably gonna fit. The lyrics are about love at first sight. The melody isn't super complicated. It's the same 4 chords the whole way through. The bass line just repeats over and over again, and it's not terribly creative. The elitist musician inside of me wants to curse it off as another piece of formulaic junk created by these sleazy pop records that just want to mass produce music for the masses to enjoy. And yet every damn time I listen to the last chorus of that song, I stop what I'm doing, maybe nod my head, and fucking listen, because that shit slaps. And in those moments when I'm, say for example, singing along during a walk, not knowing half the words, and honestly looking like a dog shit eating maniac, or I guess just a regular resident of Florida, I have a realization every time. Sometimes it lasts for days, other times only a couple minutes, but it hits every time. The only factor that makes a piece of art good is the intended impact and the actual impact. Does it make a person laugh, cry, turn off their brain when they need to? Being original doesn't define the quality of a piece of work. In fact, you could be the least original person out there, and if it has impact, then you're good. But most importantly, in order to get that impact, you have to believe in it yourself. One of my favorite authors, in fact, my favorite author of all time, I think, is Hank Green, and he talked about in a Vlogbrothers video how when he finished reading the final draft of his first book, An Absolutely Remarkable Thing, he cried. Which feels incredibly egotistical, and trust me, I have no doubt the ego is definitely a part of it, but there's something else there. It's a sign that he believes in his own work. After all, how do you expect to make other people cry when you can't even do it to yourself? So, is originality overrated? Is PewDiePie secretly a genius? And are everybody that says that he needs more original ideas secretly stupid? Well, as with most things internet, it depends. Stupid truth always resisting simplicity. If you believe in original ideas, then no, it's not overrated. They're probably the most important thing in the world to you. But if you're Owl City or Ed Sheeran, who knows how to take simple, established ideas and make something amazing with it, then probably. If you believe in your ability to use the formula, don't force yourself to have increasingly outlandish ideas to the point where you're not doing what you want to do. I'm not saying that if you believe in something, it's automatically gonna be good. Trust me, there's so many things where you can tell the creator just had so much faith in it, and it just what I'm trying to say is that if something has a certain level of passion behind it, it doesn't need to be original to be good, and thinking that is quite dangerous. There is a reason that PewDiePie is #1. But with that said, thank you everybody so much for watching this video. I do sincerely hope you enjoyed it, but thank you all for making it to the end if you're actually watching this part. Make sure to like, comment what you thought, subscribe, and until next time, this is PDB Ash, signing off.